So here's a question for you. How does a nation of samurai warriors, a culture bound by these ancient codes of honor, become a world leader in robotics and digital culture? It seems like two totally different worlds, right? Well, that's the incredible story of Japan's transformation. And today we're going to trace that exact evolution from the age of the sword to the age of the microchip. At the very heart of this journey is this fascinating idea, what we're calling a golden thread of cultural values. It connects these two eras that seem so different. Think about it. The same intense discipline that perfected a swordsman's strike, it was repurposed to perfect the modern assembly line. The absolute loyalty a samurai owed his feudal lord, that was reborn as unwavering loyalty to a company. It's the same cultural DNA, just wearing a different uniform. All right, to really get this, our story is going to unfold across 5 key chapters. We'll kick things off in the unchanging world of the shogunate, then move through the fire of industrialization, see the shadow of an empire, meet the new corporate samurai, and finally land on Japan's modern pivot to a cultural superpower. Let's get into it. Our story begins in an era of, believe it or not, profound peace and order. It was a world that was meticulously designed to resist change at all costs, the Japan of the Tokugawa shogunate. Okay, so after 100 years of just brutal civil war, this one guy, Tokugawa Ieyasu, finally unifies the entire country. The big moment was the Battle of Sekigahara back in 1600. His military government, the shogunate, then managed to enforce a peace that lasted for over 2.5 centuries. It was really an age of absolute centralized control. And that control, it was built on an incredibly rigid social ladder. At the very top, you had the samurai. They were the rulers, the administrators, and the only class allowed to wear 2 swords. Below them was the vast peasantry, then artisans, and at the very bottom, the merchants. This whole system was basically designed to freeze society in place, making sure everyone knew their role and stuck to it. You know, the shogun's genius for political control really shines with this Senkin Kotai system. It was so clever. It forced all the powerful regional lords to spend absolute fortunes on these lavish trips to the capital and to maintain 2 separate households. What did that do? Well, it kept them too poor to rebel, and with their families effectively held as very well-treated hostages back in the capital, it kept them compliant. Now, to really lock all this stability in, the shogunate brought in the Sakoku policy. But don't think of it as a total shutdown. It was more like a strategic firewall for the country. It was designed to block what the government saw as dangerous foreign ideas, especially Christianity, while still allowing a tiny, controlled trickle of trade and information, mostly through the Dutch, just to make sure Japan didn't fall completely behind. But, no wall can stand forever. This unchanging world was about to be completely shattered, forcing Japan to trade its swords for smokestacks in a truly desperate race to modernize. And this was the powerful new slogan that replaced everything that came before. Fukoku Kyohei became the rallying cry for a massive national project of frantic, top-down modernization. The goal was pretty simple: catch up with the West or get swallowed by it. And the pace of this change was just breathtaking. I mean, look at this. In 1853, American warships sail right into Tokyo Bay, shattering Japan's isolation. Just 15 years later, the shogunate is overthrown and power is restored to the Emperor Meiji. And then, by 1876, the ultimate symbol of that old world, the samurai's sword, is completely outlawed. We're talking 2.5 centuries of tradition just dismantled in a single generation. So you might be asking, what happened to the samurai spirit? Well, it wasn't destroyed. It was nationalized. The whole ruling class was abolished, sure, but their core values were not. Loyalty to a local lord was simply redirected into absolute loyalty to the emperor and this new nation-state. And their fighting skills, that became the foundation for a modern army, conscripted from all classes, not just the elite. This newfound strength, however, quickly led Japan down a really dark path. The nation's modern army and booming industry were tragically channeled into building an empire, which, of course, put it on a direct collision course with the rest of the world. Having learned the brutal logic of imperialism from the Western powers, Japan basically started to copy their playbook. A victory against China in 1895 got them Taiwan. Then in 1905, Japan absolutely shocked the world by defeating Russia. It was the first time a modern Asian power had ever beaten a European one.
This string of victories all led to the formal annexation and incredibly harsh colonization of Korea in 1910.
And all this expansion was justified by an ideology called the Greater East Asia Co-Prosperity Sphere. On paper, it sounded like a noble cause, Asia for the Asians, free from Western colonialism. But in reality, it was just a vehicle for Japanese domination, designed to secure the oil, rubber, and tin needed to fuel its growing war machine. By the summer of 1945, Japan's empire was collapsing. Its cities were being firebombed into oblivion, its navy was at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean, and its people were starving. So the big question is, why did the fight continue? The military leadership was just paralyzed, bound by a code that saw surrender as the ultimate dishonor. This absolute refusal to surrender presented U.S. President Truman with a truly terrible choice. He had 4 options. 1. Keep firebombing. 2. Launch a massive ground invasion that was predicted to cost millions of lives on both sides. 3. Demonstrate the new atomic bomb on an empty target. Or 4. Use it on a city to create the maximum psychological shock and force a surrender. From the ashes of that decision, a totally new Japan emerged. The nation's immense collective energy was redirected yet again, this time from the battlefield to the boardroom, creating a brand new kind of warrior, the corporate samurai. So under the U.S. occupation led by General MacArthur, Japan was fundamentally remade, and the cornerstone of this new identity was Article 9 of their new constitution. It's this remarkable clause where Japan forever renounces war. The nation of warriors became, officially, a pacifist nation. Now freed from the massive burden of military spending, Japan could focus all of its energy on economic victory. And this is where that golden thread we talked about becomes clearer than ever. That same disciplined collective spirit was now channeled onto the factory floor. Government ministries guided industrial policy with the authority of a shogun's council. And on the assembly lines, that relentless samurai pursuit of perfection? It was reborn as the drive for quality control and technological mastery that made Japanese cars and electronics famous all over the world. And that brings us to our final chapter. This is where Japan adapts once more, facing a whole new set of challenges and pivoting from the hard power of industry to the soft power of culture. The greatest challenge today is what some people call a quiet emergency. With a fertility rate of just 1.14, far, far below what's needed to sustain its population, Japan is aging and shrinking faster than any other major nation. This huge demographic shift is reshaping everything: its economy, its social contract, its very identity for the future. So, since it can't rely on population growth or military might anymore, Japan is now leveraging a totally new kind of power. People call it the Cool Japan strategy. Its most influential exports are no longer cars or stereos, but culture itself. We're talking anime, video games, food, fashion. These have become its primary tools for winning hearts and minds across the globe. This really represents the latest stage in Japan's long story. It's become what some call a mature superpower. The ultimate goal isn't conquest or just relentless economic growth anymore. Now it's about social stability at home and staying relevant abroad through its unique and incredibly potent cultural appeal. So, we end right back where we began. That golden thread, that code of discipline, loyalty, and perfectionism, it has been woven through centuries of radical, unbelievable change. It built a feudal society, it forged an empire, and it powered an economic titan. The final question then is this: in an age of demographic decline and digital connection, what will that same samurai spirit build tomorrow?